Hello internet and welcome to Xibalba's Tea House, where we spill the tea on things and other stuff. I'm not quite sure yet. So today I wanted to do a sort of story time, but really it's a explanation of who I am as a person and the reasons why I am that way. Okay. I have no idea what this video is called. Whatever title you see down below is probably my weird attempt at humor. I have no way to fully explain the reasoning of this to you guys, so let's just go into how my childhood brain worked. So, when I was little, I, like most children, didn't fully understand the concept of death and how morbid it was to a lot of people. And I guess I still am that way. I just see death as a fact of life. I lost my papi, my father, when I was really young. Or at least the man I thought of as my dad when I was really young. And ever since then, I've just accepted, hey, things die, people die, and I have a weird way of dealing with these things, which is just straight to acceptance, okay? Just all those other stages of grief don't exist. I just go to acceptance and I decide to move on. And some people might think that's weird or insensitive, and if you do, I understand your concerns, but I'm already set in my ways, so that's not gonna work. So I had already known what death was, like people dying, what it meant, the fact that, you know, you're no longer breathing, you're not going to see that person, interact with them, and stuff like that. But still, as a kid, there are things where you hear the words and you just kind of associate it with other things that you know. Like, kids won't fully understand what the concept truly is. They'll just grab ideas that they already know or sort of familiar and fit those together to make their own idea of what a thing is. That was a horrible explanation of the child mind. You can obviously tell I'm a professional psychologist, but my point is that I misunderstood a key fundamental trait of cremations. All right, so okay, so when I was a kid, around 4 or 5, I guess, I was told that a family friend, I lived with my grandparents, so that a family friend, an older family friend, had died, and that we were going to be attending his funeral. And like, I was a very curious kid. I'm a curious person in general, but as a kid, I'd be asking questions all the fucking time. So I was like asking my grandmother questions. I was like, oh, who is it? Oh, like, what's the funeral? Like, where are we going? Do I get to see the body? Like, what are they going to do with it? Do I get to see them dig it? Can I dig the hole? You know, normal child questions. And she told me, oh, it's a cremation. They're going to burn the body, and so we're going to go to the ceremony. So we're going to go to the church and, like, you know, say our last words and do that sort of stuff to respect the dead, because, you know, he was a member of the community and we knew him really well. So we'll just show up, you know, say our piece, do the little things that you have to do because it's polite society, and then we'll leave. And I was like, okay, cool. And so in my little child head, I was like, oh, they're burning the body. That's so fucking cool. They're gonna burn the body. I want to see it. So the day comes, we're supposed to go to this funeral. I'm super excited. Like, an unhealthy, inappropriate amount of excited for a little kid. Like, I fully was aware of what death meant, but I was also really interested in seeing a body burn. So that kind of, I was more enthusiastic about that, and I had like no respect for the mourning families. I only wanted to see this dead body. So we go to the church, and oh my god, was this fucking boring. It was so boring. There was just a preacher, and he was saying So all the sort of nonsense of like, you know, the person was perfect and had no wrongs and now they're in the hands of God. And you know, the families are crying and we have to sing hymns and stand and kneel because it's Catholic, so stand and kneel and this. And oh, I was bored, so I was trying to play in the pews and my grandparents were like, no, 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 you can't do that, you have to calm down, you can't do that. And so then I guess my grandparents thought that I shouldn't see the body because like I was too young, so they left me behind in this little room. They're like, just wait here for a few seconds. And then they went to go and see like the body before it was burned and like, you know, say their condolences directly to the family and stuff. And they couldn't take me because I was being inappropriately excited about seeing a dead body and seeing it burn. And I kept asking at every moment, Grandma, when do we get to see the cremation? When do we get to see the cremation? When is this boring talky stuff over? Because I want to see this cremation. And so eventually we get in the car and I learned like the whole thing that we did was like sort of a wake. The wake part of the funeral, just paying respects, just talking about the person. And now they're going to do the parade down to the graveyard. And I was like, oh, why are they doing the thing to the graveyard? And she's like, well, it's just symbolic, like they just want to like go there, they're gonna have a headstone for him, but they're gonna go and take the body to have it burned. And I was like, oh, cool, so we get to go, right? And she was like, no, we're going home, we've done our piece, we've said our goodbyes, we're done. And I bawled on my way home. I was crying. I was so mad. I was throwing a tantrum like, you didn't let me see the body burn. I wanted to see the cremation. Why can't we go to the graveyard? I was distraught. And you guys are like, what the fuck was wrong with this child? I'll tell you exactly why I was distraught. So here's the kicker. The reason why I was so excited about seeing a cremation was because I thought it was like a festival. So in my mind, I knew cremation was burning the body. Now I know it's like putting a body in like a giant oven and putting it at a really high degree and then everything crumbles to dust. But as a kid, I was pretty convinced that cremation was you starting a giant bonfire in like a yard or something, you know, because I'd seen bonfires before. Those were the biggest ideas of fire that I've ever seen. So I thought you started a large bonfire and you had like a Viking funeral, so you shoved the body into the fire and then you got to like dance around the bonfire or whatever and like sing songs and like have a party around this huge flame which contained the dead person. So I was very angry at my grandparents for not thinking that I could handle the super cool bonfire festival that they were having with old man Richard's body. I don't know what this man's name was, okay? But like, that's what I was so mad about. So I was so mad the rest of the day and so angry at my grandparents because I thought that they had deprived me of this beautiful moment where I could walk barefooted around a roaring bonfire that contained some dead old white dude and I could dance my little 4-year-old heart away. And it really pained me, okay? It still does to this day. That I couldn't dance around that old man's body in a bonfire. I was a very morbid child, as you can see. A little side note as well, to learn to read, I learned from gravestones. Yeah. This is not enough to say, like, to make a full story time about my life about, or even, like, one that's worth it. So I'll just add it in here because it's of the same morbid childhood material. So when I was learning to read, I learned to read pretty young, so around 2 or 3. When my mother was teaching me how to read, we used to have to walk everywhere because we were poor as fuck. We were walking and we were taking the buses. So the apartment that we lived in, you could cut through a cemetery and you could get to the bus stop faster. And like I said, I was very curious as a child, like asking fucking questions all the time. So I wanted to know how to read, and my mother was tired of me bothering her all the time, so she was like, okay, I'll teach you. So every day, several times a day, when we would have to go back and forth for like her work, the daycare, all of that sort of stuff, would walk through this graveyard and she would teach me my alphabet and my numbers from dead people headstones, because that's what we had when we were walking to the bus. So I was also really excited to hang out in the graveyard near our house, because I assumed that that is how a normal person learned. So I always wanted to go to the graveyard so that I could learn my ABCs and read them words and like get praised for reading right. So yeah, let's just say I have a weird history with death. From wanting to dance around dead man's bodies and giant bonfires to learning how to read, now one of my most favorite hobbies, from some tombstones. And this was Morbid Tea Time with Chinoa and her slightly disturbing childhood. And this is what made me the person I am today. I can't sing, obviously, you can tell that. So if you guys have any morbid stories about yourself that you kind of want to share down below, tell me. I'd really appreciate it. Tell me I wasn't the only one who thought cremation was a giant bonfire. I think like that was a common belief as a kid. Like I think like you might even today think that a cremation is a giant bonfire. I wouldn't blame you. It just seems like a bonfire thing, right? Like that's not weird. That's not weird to think that a cremation is just like a giant bonfire. I feel like that's a normal thing that kids think. Yeah, that's normal. Anyway, click all those bunnies down below, and goodbye, internet.